do you know how many black people were sold as slaves to each other in Africa?
Well, millions were sold in the slave trade around the world.
Are you talking about the transatlantic slave trade or before the transatlantic slave trade?
Transatlantic slave trade.
Okay, yeah, but that was by white people, again.
And what you mean it was by white people? I'm saying that black people enslaved other blacks and sold them to white people.
I think they were primarily kidnapped by the Portuguese.
There was not primary kidnapping. It was actually a legal slave trade that existed.
When it comes to anything that involves something negative about black people, we can't handle the truth. Welcome to Offcode, the show where we ignore the cultural codes and have real and intriguing conversations regarding the black community and ways we can move forward to human flourishing.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Offcode. I am Monique Duson.
And I am Kevin Briggins, and we are glad you guys are back with us again.
Yes, how you doing?
I'm good. I am really good. Yep, the Lord has been good. I can't complain. If I did, my wife wouldn't listen. No way. So.
Hey. You know what? Brothers and sisters, saints, if y'all don't see Kevin next week.
You know what happened. You're like, oh,
you know what happened.
You know what happened. For that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey.
But you, how about you? How you been doing?
It's good. I'm good. I'm doing good. Yeah, I feel like can't complain. God is better than what I deserve. I'll say that.
Absolutely. Amen. You know? Amen.
Yes. Today we are going to dissect or evaluate the conversation that the debate Brandon Tatum had with 20 leftist Democrats. And so I'm not sure if everybody caught it, but I guess it was sometime last week, Jubilee is an organization that does debate style videos, commentary, and they release it on YouTube. And they have Brandon Tatum do a video that they call Surrounded, where you have one person in the middle and then 20 other people from the opposite perspective surround that person, and then they debate like for almost 2 hours. So Brandon Tatum was the conservative black on the debate side, and he was surrounded by 20 leftist liberal blacks surrounding him. And so I thought it was a really interesting debate, very impassioned, I'll say that, especially at the beginning. And so, yeah, you've seen the debate, right?
Yeah, yes, I have seen it, unfortunately.
You know, there were a lot of things that were unfortunate that we'll get into, but I would say my goal in wanting to talk about this video is to show a couple of things. One, you know, if you are in more heated discussion with someone, how do you handle that? How do we listen well? How do we, the word says, agree with your adversary quickly? You know, so when and where is the right time to agree with our adversary quickly? How do we correct or answer a fool according to his folly sometimes? You know, how do we do these things? But then two, I want people to hear the arguments that are often put forward on the other side, because it's the same old tactics.
It is, but I also want people to understand that it is the dominant view in the black community.
Dominant.
The liberals are giving the dominant perspective of the black community.
Yes. Yes. So with that, I want to let everyone know that the video itself is broken up into 5 sections. We're going to look at 4 sections. And we'll just take a brief snippet from each of the 4 sections that we're going to highlight. I will link the entire video below in the description. And so you can watch the whole 2 hours of debate for yourself and see where you land. All right, let's get going on our first clip.
So I'd like to talk about Trump and the Republicans. Not specifically on Trump, but focusing upon the history of the Republican Party, because he's just the latest iteration of that, okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the Republican Party has a proven track record of giving platforms to sellouts who promote a message that harms black people.
Who is that? Who is the sellout that you, give me an example.
Well, there are actually quite a few, but I'll start with the
let's start with this premise. The first black legislators,
right,
or the first black people in Congress, House of Representatives, were all Republicans.
Right. So let me explain that to you.
Is that a fact pattern?
Right. Yes. So basically what happened is the last of the radical Republicans, which was a segment of the Republican Party that passed the 14th Amendment, all of the amendments that gave black people the right to vote and ensured that slaves would not be disenfranchised. He died in August 11.
No. Black people, Republicans unanimously voted.
He died in 1868 when the 14th Amendment was passed.
The
and then
Republicans
guess what?
as a whole voted unanimously.
No.
The Democrats did not.
Right, but guess what? After the radical Republican faction left Congress,
Radical Republican. That's the
they were a historic. No. That's a title. They were historic.
Who was the radical Republican faction?
They were a segment of the Republican Party.
Who?
That
name one.
Thaddeus Stevens. He's an example. They are the ones who created the Freedmen's Bureau, which was designed to assimilate ex-slaves into the national citizenry. After they left, the Republican Party constructed an oligarchy, which we called the Gilded Age, and in which we saw the fate of black people decline. Black home ownership decline. Black voting decline.
I hope they fact check you on
all
this.
Of that.
The Republicans unanimously voted.
No, not after that.
The Republicans unanimously voted for the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment.
Yes, under the leadership of the radical Republicans, and they were progressives.
Unanimously voted for the Civil Rights Act.
Yes, and then after the radical Republicans left, they stopped doing that.
When did the radical Republicans leave? You saying the radical
1868, the last person died.
That's not true.
It is 100% true.
Because the Republicans unanimously voted.
Let me get back to what I was saying.
Let me get
back to what I was saying.
Okay.
The Republicans unanimously voted for the Civil Rights Act.
You're bulldozing and you're steamrolling because you don't want to hear what I have to say. Listen, brother.
Okay. So before we get into any of it, I want to highlight B. Tatum's posture. One, I can't give that much smoke because I would not want to be in his shoes right then. Part of my own struggle is how emotional I can get and how just quick I can, get with my tongue. And so debate is something that I have often steered away from because I just want to come quick and be like, you wrong, let me go. And it's just not a good look. There wasn't a lot of here. Go ahead.
I can't go off that you're wrong when I haven't even heard what your question or point is yet.
And so that's the thing. It's like there was one, I don't know where the moderator was because the moderator should have been like, hey, let him get his point out. You got how do we keep the civility? But then two, he was so committed to his position that he wasn't actually listening to hear and to learn what was being said. And so whether this guy was right or wrong, the response wasn't in line with what was actually being talked about. He done went from radical Republicans ain't a thing to the Civil Rights Act, back to the radical Republicans, to they all voted and and I'm just like, but you're not listening. And this is something that I think Black Republicans get accused of a lot. You're not listening. And so how do we demonstrate the fact that we are listening and that we are compassionate? We do care about the issues that, Black liberals may care about when it comes to things like human dignity, flourishing. We just have a different way to get around or get to those things. But it was highly emotional. And this was that position, I would say, from B. Tatum was about 40 minutes of the discussion. It was.
Yeah. We both agree that he was not the right person to do this debate.
Yeah.
He really wasn't. Just his historical knowledge, his political knowledge. I mean, he's a good commentator on current issues and give a perspective, but I'm not going to sit there from a political, philosophical standpoint and say, oh yeah, Brandon Tatum is the guy who needs to sit down and have this discussion, right? No. And it was obvious because I really wanted to hear the guy's point and question where he was going to go. I think I know where he was going to go. And if I was sitting there, I was going to shoot it down and kill it. But we never got to it because Brandon Tatum completely interrupted and started talking loud and changed the whole premise, and it was just off the rails from the beginning. That's just not a productive way to have even a debate. I was gonna say a conversation, but it's not even a healthy way to have a debate.
Yeah. And I don't think that Tatum had ever heard of the radical Republicans.
He had.
Which this guy is speaking of something that is historical. It is true. It's not made up. We can just Google who are the radical Republicans, or we can look back at the age of Reconstruction and look at what were the positions of some Republicans during that time of Reconstruction. How did they fight? What did they want the North to do, and what did they want the South to do, and things like that. But I also thought it was very interesting that the liberal debater came in just automatically calling Black Republican sellouts.
Oh, absolutely. Because you knew that's coming. You know that was coming.
But I mean, dang, like right out you the first one.
Oh, no, and that's why I would have went off on him on that one, because that's just, it's like I said, only the Black community has this idea that if you don't go lock in step with a particular way of thinking or a particular political position, then you're a sellout, a coon, whatever. Only the Black community has that. No other community believes that because you're X race, ethnicity, community, therefore you must vote or think this way. We're the only ones.
I don't know. I think I see some of that in the Hispanic community, although I don't think it extends to the vote. Yes, I have had, and
that's what I'm talking about. The vote, though.
Yeah.
No, like Joe Biden said, they diverse, unlike Black people. He said they diverse.
Leave Sleepy Joe alone. He's somewhere taking a nap. Don't start. So this is the setup. This is part of just kind of what is gonna happen for the next 40 minutes. I'm gonna, I think, take us forward so that we can see what happens after things kind of calm down. I personally think that they pulled the coattails of everybody, because when people would sit down, they were hot. Like, he would say something, and I think people were coming in hot, like the debaters were coming in hot, because he had already shown up hot. Like, as soon as you would sit down, he was just like, nope, that's a lie. But it's a fact check on the side of the screen. It's like, no, that's true.
Well, but actually, I mean, on the first clip, the fact checker was checking both of them. And I mean, the guy was wrong about the radical Republicans kind of going away or whatever. Like, their power diminished, but they didn't just like go away. But yeah, that to a certain degree, even though Tatum is conservative, it was typical Black cultural behavior. Like, we tend to debate very passionately, loudly, expressively.
Yes. Right? So there was nothing to be taken aback by that.
No.
I think since starting CFBU and learning like more about logic and debate and things like that, I'm like, well, people don't debate like that. But no, at home, yeah.
Yes. Like, if me and my friends or my family, and we're having, typically it's sports, and we're having a debate over who's the GOAT, LeBron or Jordan, it is going to be very loud, very expressive, and we're talking over one another. And we're just, but when you're talking about a formal debate, when you're talking about sitting down across from someone, you can't come with that type of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also interesting because before the whole debate started, the moderator introduced herself and she was like, normally we would have whoever their regular moderator is. She's like, but for this one, we can't do that. They brought me in. And I was just like, yeah, because it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But they should have really trained her on what does it mean to be a moderator. Like, she would step up every once in a while and be like, hey, but there should have really been, to me, just more moderation.
Yeah. And for those who aren't tracking, the regular moderator is white and she's Black. And so she was saying that they brought her in for this debate because this was not the debate for him.
No. No. I mean, it was really like sitting around the family dinner table.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised. I was just disappointed. Mainly the energy, and also his performance was disappointing.
Yeah. Okay, that section was called Trump and Republicans are better for the Black community than Democrats. Let's go to police officers do more good in the Black community than harm. So there's the moderator.
If you would like to be the next debater, get to that chair in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Everything I heard, everything I've listened to thus far, I think you're full of shit. You're a police officer.
No, give me an example of what I've
Hello.
said that wasn't true.
Let me get to it.
Give me something that I said that wasn't true.
I don't think anybody here would disagree that good policing is bad. We're talking about bad policing. We're talking about bullshit policing. We're talking about the kind of policing that puts gentlemen like you and me in prison for unjust crimes. You like to cite that you're a police officer. Let me cite my professional background.
I was
Let
officially.
me cite my professional
I have been in that
background.
profession.
10 years writing policy in government.
You weren't
at
a
the
police
local
officer.
and
But you weren't a
state of
police
California levels. And
You never arrested
weren't-
anybody.
You didn't write policy. I did.
I enforced the law.
So, okay, I write the law.
you don't enforce the law.
You don't enforce the law.
I
You don't
enforce the
enforce
law.
the law appropriately.
You just made it
You
up.
like to use one-offs. Let me use a one-off.
You don't need to use one off. You just made
in the
it up.
city of San Diego, there was a black police officer that sued the San Diego Police Department
Anecdotal.
with regard to, I mean, bro, all day you've been coming up with me. Now
I got
it's
statistical data
anecdotal.
points. Where do you want to go?
Look, like, I need you to keep that same
Black
energy,
people
bro.
commit
I need you to
over
keep the
half of
same
all violent
energy.
crimes.
And that's the problem with black conservatives like yourself. You don't know how to keep
You're
the same
just
energy.
talking emotionally.
It was
Give
me,
me some facts.
me. Well, I'm trying to give you facts.
come on with it.
You supposed to be a police officer. Hold your head, bro. Hold your head. You interrupted everybody, bro. I got
You're
what,
here to
2-3
debate me.
minutes.
I'm not here to listen to you talk in circles.
But you talking like you was a state trooper, you was a Secret
But I know
Service.
cops.
and
I
them.
know cops all across the country.
But I did too.
I know
I did too.
policy. I know all
I do
that.
too.
All right, get to your point.
You don't know policy because you never written one. He
We're
said,
talking
nah.
about policing in the black community. We're not talking about
I want
policy
to hold
writing.
you to account because police officers like you don't like accountability. So I want to hold you to account. I'm trying to get my story out, and if I can finish my story.
This is not story time, man. The point is, police do more good.
The point was
Police do more.
So the emotions are still hot, but we aren't at the 40-minute mark yet.
This is frustrating to watch. It really
It's
is.
tough.
And
It is tough.
when I watched it earlier, I was frustrated. Like I said, just the demeanors, and then the information is all wrong. Like, and we can't get to the actual question or debate or the point to have the discussion. That's what's frustrating. Our Officer Tatum asked about mass shootings. A mass shooting is 4 or more people shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's not 2, it's 4. I had this exact same conversation today on Facebook. Black people refuse to believe that that the black community commits 50% of all homicides. They just don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what numbers you give them, they just won't accept it.
Yeah.
They just refuse to believe it, even though their eyes tell them that, right? They just think
The bars on their windows tell them that.
Yeah, but they continuously just say, "Oh no, this is a white racist trope against black people. Therefore, this isn't real."
Yeah.
Right? And people need to understand that's how black people view a lot of things. It's through the lens of the past. And so no matter what the truth is today,
Mm-hmm.
like for instance, this Nolan Wells case in Mississippi.
Father.
I'm not gonna get into it because we just really don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But
everybody want him to have been drowned.
Exactly.
I
I'm
don't
like-
understand. Like, y'all don't want him to have, like, that his friends couldn't have
they
really
want his
been-
friends to have killed him, but they're already doing the Emmett Till comparisons, right? Everything is through a lens of this
Yeah.
trauma past, right? And
Yeah.
so, black people just because there were things said about black people being violent in the 19 whatever, therefore crime statistics today and this idea that black people commit 50% of homicides is also now just a trope.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it is factually true. Factually true.
When the liberal debater, and this is something that I hear a lot too, well, white people commit more crimes overall. But you got to think about how many white
It's
people
hard to understand.
are in the country. It's a lot of them. So, but
Yes.
then when you look at the ratios, when you look at the percentages, the numbers, that it doesn't add up. And especially when you look at violent crime.
I'll say this. It is intentionally they're gaslighting. And this is why I say that. They understand disparities when it comes to something that we want to be a part of.
Ooh, break
When
it
it comes
down.
to something positive, they understand statistics and disparities. But all of a sudden we start talking about crime and they just act stupid. Like, oh, well, no, all of a sudden, the rate or the proportion, all of a sudden they can't understand it, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
But in other places where we claim we're underrepresented, they have no issue making those statistical arguments because we're underrepresented here and there's systemic racism here. But the
Mhm.
minute we're overrepresented in something like crime, they go like, I don't understand that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's keep looking at this. It's going to be from the same segment. Police officers do more good in the Black community than harm. And this is what B. Tatum's claim is, and everybody's debating that claim. Let's look at a section on personal responsibility. This was interesting.
Please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
What's up?
What's up, bro?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good.
Let's have some fun. I want to approach this from a place of curiosity because the thing that troubles me about a lot of the way you structure your arguments is that it seems to suggest to me that you perhaps believe that there's some moral deficit that Black people have that inclines us to commit more crimes.
I don't believe
and
that.
I guess my question is, what do you think that moral lack is?
I don't really think it's a sweeping generalization that every Black person somehow is born inherently evil or inherently a criminal. I think that there's different things that do cause people to fall down a path of committing crimes, which is what their fathers did and what their mothers did.
One might say context and systemic racism. Or
I don't think it has. I think it had much to do with racism.
No.
I don't think it has. Like for instance, we can isolate criminal activity that happened in the Black community that has no hand or involvement from white people.
Yeah.
You know, a young man deciding to grab a gun and do a shooting has nothing to do with white people. A young man having sex with 5 and 6 women, getting them pregnant, and not standing up for his responsibilities has nothing to do with white people.
See, but when you tell.
So this clip I really wanted to highlight because I appreciated the fact that he listened. I really think that they pulled everybody's coattails. But I appreciated the fact that one, he heard him out, and two, he said it has nothing to do with whiteness. But, and you say this a lot, we're always tying our excuses to whiteness, to white people. And if our excuses are always tied to whiteness and white people, then it's going to take whiteness or white people in order to be able to free you from the chains that you connected to. And so, the context of personal responsibility can really come hard. We'll listen to the rest of that clip in just a minute, but I did want to hear your thoughts so far.
Yeah, the guy, he basically came with the Ibram X. Kendi argument. Either there's something morally deficient in Black people or it's systemic racism, right? No other argument can be made. And it's just not true. That's just not true. And I don't remember if Brandon Tatum gets to it, but at the end of the day, it's culture, right? The reason you have poor white communities and poor Black communities who both struggle with poverty, who both have an element of crime that exists there. But when it comes to murders, the Black poor community is way up here. Why is that? Is it Black people are inherently more violent? No, it is a culture, right? It is gang culture. It is street culture. It's these rules of the street. It's about being disrespected and how you handle being disrespected. And all of these types of things, right? That's just culture. Right. And so, no, it's not that Black people are inherently X, but when you look at the pathologies within modern day inner city Black culture, it lends itself to how they handle conflict. And that conflict is handled with violence. Right. And so that's all it is. And so you have to change the culture. There's nothing systemic racism. There's nothing white people can do outside of coming in there and showing them how to live differently. And if you believe that what Black people need is for white people to come in and show us how to live civilly, then I'm not the one that's anti-Black.
Well, he says something to that effect later on in the video. Let's finish out this conversation with the liberal debater.
With 5 and 6 women getting them pregnant and not standing up for his responsibilities has nothing to do with white people.
See, but when you tell stories like that, it seems to suggest that you're saying that black people are responsible for all of that versus these isolated incidents, these mythical isolated incidents that you're bringing up.
I'm saying it's personal responsibility.
Yeah, so you're saying
there's no white man there.
There's an epidemic of personal responsibility inside the black community.
I agree with
How
that.
do you measure that?
By looking at the effects of it, looking at what black people are doing over time.
So earlier, people have come up and given you a vast number of statistics that indicate systemic racism, inequality, poverty, education. It's happened over and over again. Yet you claim black people have an epidemic of personal responsibility, but you can't give a single statistic that indicates that. How do you
have
measure
an
that?
epidemic of personal responsibility. You see the outcomes.
Is it the rap music?
That's one indicator.
Yeah. It's rap music.
It's rap music.
Let the bodies hit the floor. Who wrote that song?
Let me give you an example of why this is different.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of why this is different.
Come on. Let's talk about rap.
And I'm gonna tell you how it has a negative effect on black people.
Yeah.
White people actually listen to rap music way more than black people do. Mm-hmm. They purchase it more. Mm-hmm. But black people are living the stuff that's in the music. Mm-hmm. White people fantasize of what it may be like to run up on your op and shoot somebody and kill them and go to prison.
Bars. Come on.
And selling dope in the hood to your own people.
Yeah.
Black people are living it. It's a reality. And it's reinforced. You cannot tell me that that's not a form of brainwashing.
I've listened to a lot of rap music. You know what I've never done? Shot up a school.
What does a school guy do anything?
I think you try to create this image.
Are you saying that there's no?
This is what I mean by you seem to suggest that there's no negative.
No, you're saying that there's no negative.
There's some kind of lack that causes us to be more prone to violence, but you don't acknowledge any of the historical context.
Are you saying that there's no negative effects of brainwashing yourself about killing your brother and sister and listening to that on a day-to-day basis? There's no negative effect in that.
Right. Why are you posing this as a uniquely black thing?
Because
this is like when you make the argument that like violence has been a part of art all the time. I write for a living. You know who glorifies violence? William Shakespeare. You know who glorifies violence? Quentin Tarantino. But you don't see anyone talking about, oh my God, this is responsible for all the white on white crime, even though there are more white criminals in America than any other race.
We're talking about black people.
Yeah.
Do you think that black hip-hop music, rap music is detrimental to the black community?
No.
You think it has no effect on the psyche of a young man listening to that every day?
No. It's that simple.
I disagree with you on that point. I think here lies the problem.
How would you validate that? How would you prove that?
Well,
what can be proved is a correlation between poverty and crime, and that can be traced systemically through history. And this goes back to all of the arguments we've made about wealth accumulation and how black people have been prevented from having that.
Now, how can you associate that to white supremacy?
How can I associate white supremacy and generational poverty? Do you think wealth is inherited?
In part.
Yes. So do you think poverty is inherited?
Majority of people who are successful in this country do not get passed on generational wealth. A lot of people who are very successful came from nothing. I would argue that almost every black person who is successful came from nothing, which is an example of why capitalism works.
Yeah. Okay. So I went to one of the most conservative high schools in America. It is a very alluring and deceptive delusion to believe that because you live in circumstances that are different from the rest of black people that somehow you are special.
What do you mean? You're saying that if you work hard in this country...
This is the way earlier that you suggested,
work hard,
like, oh, here's my example of someone who escaped poverty, and that means that everybody has access to that.
No, I'm not saying not every white person has access to...
So then you acknowledge that there are forces that operate against black people that are unique to black people. And where do those come from?
I think a lot of it comes from the actions of black people.
The epidemic of personal responsibility that you can't indicate how.
Are you telling me? So, are you a successful man? Consider like
I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my thing. Yeah.
Okay. Did you go to school?
I got incredibly lucky.
Are you educated?
I got incredibly lucky.
Are you educated?
Yeah.
Okay. What decisions did you have to make to get to the point that you're at?
Okay, we want to talk about education. We want to talk about the difference in funding between schools in black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods.
No,
like if you're
funding. I went to probably one of the poor schools in my school district.
Yeah.
That didn't make the difference of whether or not I did my homework or not.
Yeah, this is the thing where I think you're convinced that you're special.
I don't think that inherently because the color of my skin that somehow I'm behind the curve against white people.
Yeah, Harriet Tubman escaped the plantation. A lot of people didn't. Is it the fault of all those black people that they couldn't escape?
I don't get your point there.
The point that I'm making is that people live in dire circumstances, and every once in a while, someone can break out. And that's not an indication that the system itself is not corrupt.
Black people don't live in a world where every now and again, the majority of black people live in the middle class.
Yes, but a lot more black people live in poverty than any other.
Disproportionate, and a lot of those are because of decision making. When you have children, and you're not married.
This is why I'm saying that I think you think that black people have some unique moral deficit. You're saying that there's an epidemic of personal responsibility in black people, but you can't prove that. And yet we can prove that systemic racism exists, but you don't.
what you're doing is you're assessing or
When does systemic
associating
racism stop in America? When does systemic racism stop in America?
I don't think there was real systemic racism.
Ever? Keep going, please keep going.
Right,
I would love for you to go for the rest of this time on that.
I do not
Tell me-
believe that there's been systemic racism in America that's been a primary reason why black people cannot succeed.
Right, but you can't prove that there's an epidemic of personal responsibility. You can prove that there's an epidemic of systemic racism.
No, look.
And that's why I'm asking you, when did it stop? Because theoretically, that should be the moment when we're all equal.
Are you saying that black people are not responsible for the decisions that they make?
I'm saying everyone has agency. Everyone commits crime. Everyone does everything.
Exactly.
But people have had to live in different circumstances.
So therefore, if you do the right things like you did, you have an opportunity to be successful, which is equal to just about anybody else, no matter what color you are. You think white people are better than you?
No, but I worry you do.
Why do you think I do? I'm the one that's saying that black people have an opportunity to be successful in this country just as well as anybody else. You don't believe that. So you think white people are better than you.
Your prompt perhaps could have been, we should do more to prevent crime and poverty in black communities, right? That's a way of framing the argument that is about
You can say you can
solutions and aid.
frame or whatever you want. You are focusing on, we're talking about black people.
I'm focusing on language because words are important.
No, we're talking about black people and you're focusing on what white people are doing. So who harm black people more than other black people?
How many people who brought us over are here on boat?
A lot was said there, and I think that this is probably one of the best places where B. Tatum pushed back. He was thoughtful, he was clear, and I just felt like the energy that the debater was giving him, he was able to kind of stay under it and talk about that personal responsibility, but he's also very passionate about personal responsibility. He talks about it a lot. And so I really thought that this was an area where he shined. I'll leave it there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Dudes like that are just so frustrating. Because it's just weakness. It's weak. And this idea that all our problems are due to funding. All our problems are due to someone else. Like all the decision makings, like the person going to pick up a gun and doing this. And I guess I made the point earlier, you stop making this about poverty. There are more poor white people in America, just numerically. So if it was simply about poverty, you would expect white people to commit more murders because there's more poor white people, right? But that's not what we see. So you can't simply say this is just about poverty, especially when everybody on that panel probably came somewhere out of the hood, right? And so like, if you came out, you made the right decisions, right? And this is how you know it is about personal responsibility and not about systemic racism, which some Brandon Tatum should have brought up was the success sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
He
tried to.
This is all you have to do to avoid poverty. That is finish high school, which is given to you free. Education, K through 12 is free. And it didn't say go to an affluent high school, just graduate high school. Get a job. It didn't say get what kind of job. It just says get a job. Get married and then have a kid in that order. If you do that, 97% of people who do that avoid poverty, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, it is about personal responsibility and what you choose to do. Mm-hmm. But if you go out there and you choose, you don't want to go to class, you want to do homework, you want to drop out of school, or you don't want to get a job, you want to sell drugs, you want easy money, you want to rob people, or, you go out there and you get a kid and now you don't want to go to school and now you're just going to work at McDonald's and you put yourself in that position. That was a choice you made. And everyone has decisions to make. But what the guy keeps talking about, so you think there's something effective. It's like, man, stop reading Kendi.
Well, I thought it was interesting that he called it an epidemic of personal responsibility and then said that, but you have no proof for that, or you have no proof that, these things are directly connected to the rap music, or the rap music has, no impact on people. Yes. And I learned this way back in the day when I was in my sociology classes. White people buy more rap music than black people do. White people do more drugs than black people do. It's a white suburban thing. But what is the impact of the rap music on the black community? And so when we make that direct connection, I feel like what are we talking about in the rap music? We talking about shooting people up. We talking about having all this rampant sex. I'm going to do this to that person. I'm going to do this. She going to do that to my body and all of that. And then, but what do we see as the direct link in the Black community. We see people shooting up. We see all these baby mamas ain't got no baby daddies, children growing up in single parent homes, men with 4 and 5 and 6 different women that have all of these children and things like that. There is a correlation. And so we can't just pretend like there isn't at least some form. We can investigate, is there a direct causation, but there is correlation. The more this music is produced, the more we see these things happening within our community. A good depiction of that is in our last election cycles when they had no voting, no vucking. Remember that? Or
that
when,
song. I said, yeah, that song. And then they had Juvenile vax that thing up for the COVID shot. Instead of back that thing up, it was vax that thing up. They used Juvenile. And these are things aimed at the Black community. Right?
It was either Megan Thee Stallion or
it was
Sexy
Meg.
Red, or
it was Meg Thee Stallion.
At the
Kamala
convention.
Harris.
Rally or whatever it was. And so if Black people don't know that this is what is really impacting your community, the white people who planned that song and who were doing Kamala Harris's rallies sure do. And so it's like, you can't pretend like this doesn't have an impact on your community. You can't have this idea that, like, if somebody offers you some thug rapped out music, that it's not going to make you vote a certain way. It's not going to make you shake a certain way. It's not going to make you think a certain way. And I don't know what it is, because we don't really see that high of a correlation in the white community.
Yeah. That guy is the somewhat poster child for what I've experienced from Black people online having these conversations. And it is an inability to be honest. It just can't be honest. No one who has been honest can say rap music and hip hop music has no effect on the Black community.
Yeah.
That's just a lie. So either you're lying or you're just not. You rode the short bus to school. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Because no one who's honest can say that. How can you say that hip hop culture has no effect on Black culture?
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense. Everybody knows it does, right? And this is the example I like to use because it was when I was young and in school. That's when, and I already mentioned Juvenile, but it's when Juvenile was really popular, especially down here in the South. And the Hot Boys, that was their group.
Oh, yeah.
And Juvenile used to wear these gold glasses, these gold framed glasses. All of a sudden, guys in the hood who did not wear glasses. See, I wore glasses, but all of a sudden, everybody's wearing glasses, and they're wearing the Juvenile glasses, right? Wow, because Juvenile's wearing them.
Yeah,
it has an effect.
Yes,
like you look at the way people are dressing and stuff. They're mimicking the rappers, right? It has an effect on behavior, and so like to say that it doesn't, it's just crazy. That's just not. And so once he said no, I don't think it has any effect. Like, okay, you're not being honest. You're not here to have an honest conversation. You're just trying to, because he know conservatives are going to talk about the music. That's why he even brought it up. But you going to say rap music? He was ready for that. And he's already going to say, no, it doesn't have any effect. He's lying. He's lying. That guy's a liar. And that's why I would just say his time up. I can't talk with him. He would have had to get up out the chair.
See, this is why you can't be in B. Tatum's seat either.
No. If you just disingenuous, we can't have a conversation. I'm not wasting words on you. I'm not gonna waste words on you. It's a waste of time because you're not even being honest. You can't even have a dialogue.
See, and I think I would have responded with some statistics. This amount of songs geared toward Black people.
But that's the thing. He's asking for something that don't exist, for something that don't even need to be. He's asking for a statistic to something that doesn't need a statistic. Either we can observe it with our eyes, either we know it because we're in the culture and we see the influence of it. But why we gotta have some type of statistic? Why you gotta have a Harvard research study to say,
I don't know that it gotta be a Harvard research study. Yeah, I can see it with my eyes, but I also think that there is something revealed in truth. And statistics help to ground things in truth.
True, but that's not going to be a statistic for everything. You can't have a statistic for
I'm not saying
how
you
many
gotta have
rap
a statistic
songs
for everything, but when people, because that's their main claim, rap music does not cause these things. That correlation, even if you call it a correlation, you're mistaken. And so why not? Why not do some kind of research and be like, look, 82% of the rap albums last year glorified sex, drugs, and unalive police officers.
But
and
they
look at
still
the amount of people who did X, Y, and Z. I find it interesting.
I know, but they're still not going to say that's proof that the music affected Black culture. Like, and you shouldn't even need that. He's just being dishonest. And this is what I think. It's kind of like the murder rate or the murder numbers. It don't matter the statistics. They're still not going to believe it.
I'm not saying they have to, but at least the information would be there. I think there is something to having information.
It is, but the information has to be, like I said, there's no study to prove that. You can't prove rap music causes murders.
But you can look at correlation.
I mean, because they're going to say, well, then white kids listen to more of it and they don't do this. So how can you blame the music? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I don't know. I just think that there's some statistical research that could be done in this area.
I don't think so. I think it's one of those things of we were in it, we lived it, we know what affected us as growing up in that culture, and it was the music, it was the movies.
But there has to be something more than anecdotal, like examples. I do think that there is a way to statistically get there. Now, see, I'm gonna want to do some tag. Yeah, but I think it would make a great master's or PhD thesis.
True, but to me, that's one of the downsides of modern Western culture. It's the experts. Everything's a stat. Everything's a study. It's Harvard. It's Yale. We don't need them to validate what we know is true. We know it's true.
Sometimes you do need that the proof is in the pudding. We do that for everything else. I can go and give you evidence for the resurrection. Why can't I give you evidence for how ratchet your culture is?
Yeah, because like I said, the issue is not proof. The issue is not numbers. They're not going to believe it either way. Because when you give them actual numbers, they still
who don't believe in the resurrection. There's always going to be some people who don't believe that the resurrection happened, but I have proof. I can go and show you based on these things over here, the resurrection is more likely to have happened than not. I would say that the same thing with your rap music, your ghetto ratchet baby mama culture, and the correlation to what you see walking in front of you is more likely than not.
Okay, I got you. So I was trying to think how to make it work. So this is how I was spinning on them. Because they're always talking about representation, how important it is to see someone who looks like you do something, right? So you can say that's why it doesn't affect white kids as much, because the imagery that they're seeing isn't of them, right? And so Black kids are seeing this and emulating it because it is a representative of what they see in themselves.
Yeah.
That's what but I shouldn't have to use their own stupid logic and arguments.
You shouldn't have to, but sometimes you got to answer a fool according to his folly. Like sometimes you just need to meet them and make it so that you are now without excuse.
Yeah.
Like now. And now you can reject that knowledge, but don't say that nobody ever told you. Man, we're running out of time.
I know. I say this. I don't mind doing it. I shouldn't have to do that to prove the sky is blue, is what I'm saying. That's what's frustrating me. Yeah. We shouldn't even have to have this discussion.
No, there's a lot of discussions we shouldn't have to have, but here we are off code. Okay, we only gonna get to one more section. Let's do Black people hurt Black people more than any other group. This will be fun for you.
Okay.
Back again. Okay, so thank you for clarifying the prompt for us, because I was a little confused reading it, because white people hurt white people around the same rates. But I guess my question is starting when and how are you quantifying harm?
Okay, that's a great question. I think that we can go all the way back to the beginning if you want to in slavery, when the slave trade was proliferated. Okay. Black people enslaved each other.
Where?
In Africa. Black people enslaved other Blacks in Africa and sold them all over the world. That, to me, that's an incredible harm of black people inflicted on other blacks and perpetuated across the world. Then you have slavery now perpetuated in South America. You have it in the United States of America. That is initial harm. I would argue that the point in time of slavery in America as we know it, I believe that white people hurt black people more than black people did.
Yes.
Now we go post-slavery.
Okay.
I believe that black people began to take the torch and destroy themselves or destroy other blacks more than any other group in America.
Okay, so let's start post-slavery. I'm gonna ignore the thing about black people selling black people in Africa.
Is that not true?
Well, do you know how many black people were sold as slaves to each other in Africa?
Well, millions were sold in the slave trade around the world.
Are you talking about the transatlantic slave trade or before the transatlantic slave trade?
Transatlantic slave trade.
Okay, yeah, but that was by white people again.
And what you mean it was by white people? I'm saying that black people enslaved other blacks and sold them to white people. I think
they
that
were
was
primarily
was that not
kidnapped
true?
by the Portuguese.
There was not
The main-
primary
yes,
kidnapping.
the
It was an
main
actual
method.
legal slave trade that existed.
Yes, I
and
mean-
millions of transactions between
The
Africans.
legal slave trade that existed before the transatlantic slave trade was mainly based on when a tribe conquered another tribe, they were prisoners
Still
of
enslaved.
war, which is still enslaved, but it's different from the transatlantic slave trade when we're talking about black people hurting black people versus white people hurting black people, right? But I wanted to go focus.
You go first.
Yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Not only did Africans sell other Africans to the Europeans, which was the primary way in which the slave trade occurred, but Africans were also selling other Africans to the Arabs to the east, long before the transatlantic slave trade. So slavery was a common thing on the African continent, and them selling slaves throughout the world was a common thing. She has no clue what she's talking about. And this is another thing when I'm talking about. When it comes to anything that involves something negative about black people, we can't handle the truth. You know, we're on the stand. And so so yeah, she has to kind of, okay, let me brush that off. Let me just go to something else. And he's like, no, let's talk about this thing because the way even in our American, school textbooks and stuff, we argue slavery as this uniquely white sin that happened, when in the reality it was a worldwide thing, and Africa played a big part of it. Africa was not a victim of the slave trade. Africa was a willing participant in it.
Supplier is the word.
Yes, they were on the block supplying. Hey,
Yes.
man, I need some slaves. What you
Yeah,
got, man? I
right. And
got
white
you.
people was them fiends. They was like, you got a slave. You got a slave I can borrow.
Hey, they on they ships on the coastline, like, hey, what you
Right.
got? Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so that's how it went down, but most people don't know that's how it went down. They think Europeans showed up, kidnapped black people into slavery, and that's how, no, it's not how it went.
Friday, Portuguese would have been Debo.
Yeah, because the thing, you go to Africa today, and they still have the trade blocks at the coastline, right, and stuff like that. That's where it was. You port and you unload your goods to them. And then you take the slaves and put them on your boat and you sail off. That's how it went down.
And white people couldn't, the idea that white people were going in and kidnapping black slaves, to me, that's so ludicrous. Think about it. What white person, especially during that time when diseases were so rampant and you had all of these bush tribes and things like that, if I am going into the jungles and going into all of this dense brush areas with their level of diseases and the different
malaria
animals, okay, it wouldn't make sense. That was not something they could do. They couldn't just go onto somebody else's turf to kidnap them. What had to happen was they were already enslaved. And a lot of it was, we won a war. But then once Africans understood that I don't need to actually win a war in order to get this money, I don't have to sacrifice all those people. All I have to do is go out and send some of my people to go kidnap yours. We don't really have to have all that beef. I'm just going to kidnap you. Or if you're out here, by yourself, we can kidnap you. We can sell you into the slave trade. I also appreciated the fact that you brought up about, we can't talk about things that really show the depravity of Africans, blacks, whatever. She was like, well, the fact that you talked about, blacks selling blacks, I'm just going to ignore that. Well, no, we can't just ignore that because we need to actually have an accurate history. We also shouldn't ignore that the very first legal slave owner was a Black guy. So in America.
Yeah.
And so we really need to understand our history better and not just want to sweep things under the rug. Nobody said we can't talk about whites, but we need to also have a full narrative of our history.
Yeah. And it's just this kind of, man, we got to do a whole episode on it. On black racism. And I don't mean racism from a system and all that nonsense. I'm talking about racial prejudice. And there's a lot of racial prejudice in the Black community towards white people, right? Our whole framework for what we think is good in the world and wrong in the world is based on that framework.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about it in an episode, but there's data. No, we just talked about data, right? And I just know this from experience. The group with the most intergroup preference towards each other is Black people, right? If I like to give this example. If there's a boxing match and they're both Americans, if one guy's Black and one guy's white, Black people are rooting for the Black guy. Just automatically. That's just the way it is. And so Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf, right? How many Black people simply sided with Carmelo Anthony because he's Black? O.J. Simpson, right? It can go on and on. We prefer and give racial bias and preference towards people who look like us. And because we do, we assume everyone else does as well.
But then we condemn others when they do, or if we think they do.
Yes, but it's only okay if we do. Because we have this idea that we've been sold, going back to Dr. King and just the way we're told history is, Black people are the moral foundation of America, right? We can do no wrong. Anything we say, believe, and do is God's hand is upon us.
Because Jesus and God are Black. They are on the side of the oppressed.
Absolutely.
Oh, Father.
And I'm just trying to lay out for people the Black psyche, right? So they just kind of understand how Black people in general, tend to think about things.
Now, that doesn't mean that we all a monolith, because obviously, we're here. But yeah, when we're looking at that broader culture, the struggle be so real. Okay, let's look at our last clip. This is also from the same segment of Black people hurt Black people more than any other group. This is B. Tatum's claim. And I thought this guy's, or it's actually the same girl. They're just a little bit further down in the conversation. So yeah, this one it'll bless you, Kevin.
Black people versus white people hurting Black people, right? But I wanted to go focus on your claim about post-slavery. Yes. So the primary, I guess, what do you think Black people were doing post-slavery?
Well, I think there's a period of time where there was an explosion of Black excellence.
Yes, Reconstruction.
After slavery was abolished.
Right.
We have Black people fighting in the military, Black people owning their own companies, building wealth. We have Black Wall Street.
Okay.
We have, you go on, so on and so forth.
Right.
And I believe that as Black people begin to support Marxist theology, Martin Luther King and others put us in a path where we rely on the government more than our own resilience.
Okay.
And you cannot tell me that that's not true.
So let's pause, because we just skipped like a good 30 years of history. We just skipped like 3 decades.
I'm giving you a
history.
summation from the 30s to the 60s.
Okay, yeah. So we did Reconstruction, and Reconstruction was ended, right? Because the South took back. At the time, we had Northerners in the South who were running the South so that the Union could stay together. Once the North left the South, Reconstruction ends, and that's when we see Black people start to decline. It wasn't Karl Marx. Karl Marx didn't come in and say—
I said Marxist theology. I didn't say Karl Marx.
It wasn't Marxist theology. I mean, we're just ignoring the history of sharecropping. That's ignoring the history of Jim Crow, right? You think that Karl Marx was worse for the Black community than Jim Crow segregation?
Let me.
And that is the question that I think many people want to kind of skirt around, is that when we think about Marxism, socialism, the infiltration of communism in the 30s into the Black church and things like that, none of those things were as bad for us as Jim Crow, as racism. That's all. And I'm not trying to give a head nod to Jim Crow or like some kind of hat tip. That's not it. But you do have to look at what was the Black church doing, what was the Black family doing, what was Black culture doing during the time of Jim Crow versus post the institution or the not invitation, but like post the insertion of Marxian thought.
Yeah. And we've talked about this of we look at that era of Black Wall Street and all this type of stuff, but we never consider the principles and values that built it, right? And the principles and values that built it were not the principles and values of W.E.B. Du Bois. They were not the principles and values of the Black elite class. They were the principles and values of the working class, the Booker T. Washingtons, the pull yourself up, And so we did move more towards a Marxist mindset. We did move more towards a socialist mindset. Like I said, W.E.B. Du Bois was a Marxist. He founded the NAACP along with some white Marxists, right? And so you start looking at all these Black institutions, or you look at people like Langston Hughes and all these poets and stuff we were told to read and stuff, and you realize, oh, they were Marxists. I was just told to read them when I was a kid because that was Black thought, right? Those are the things that really took over in terms of the Black community and really hurt. And she talked about Reconstruction. Reconstruction ended in 1877, right? So the Civil War ends in 65. You've got Reconstruction for 12 years. It's a 12-year period. That's all it is, right? In the 1920s and 30s, Black people were still doing things, right? When they talk about Black Wall Street was in the 1920s. We talk about Black Harlem and the Harlem Renaissance within the 1900s. This is all post-Reconstruction.
Yeah.
Right? And so like this idea that Black people started to go down or stop producing because Reconstruction ended. Now, I do think Reconstruction ending was not a good thing.
Yeah.
It was trying to make some things right. And it ended for the sake of preserving the Union. Because at that point, like she said, the North was running the South. The South was occupied after the war by the North. Right.
Yes. And so they came to, and I'm forgetting the name of the compromise now, but it was because the presidency looked like it was a tie. And so the president that won it, I'm thinking it was the Northern president, who it was one running against the other. Yeah. And the South said, hey, we will give you the presidency if you give us back the South. Yeah. And so at that point, that was the end of Reconstruction because everybody in the North who had come down for Reconstruction was pulled out because of
all the troops and stuff. Yeah, was pulled out.
This compromise that was made about the presidency. And so was that fair? Was that just? Absolutely not.
No,
but
it wasn't.
That doesn't mean that Black people just stopped producing and became just this, class of people who were just immediately
downtrodden and stuff. Yeah,
downtrodden always.
But he has to know that those people in that room they're not going to look at Marxism or Marxist thought in a negative light. They just aren't. To them, it's liberation and it's Blackness. It's the fist, right? They're all in on that.
Right.
So if you're going to make that argument, you better know it and make it for real. Right? And I don't think Brandon Tatum was ready to really know what he was talking about to make a intelligent argument about the effects of Marxist ideology on the Black thought in the Black community.
Which is sad. It is so sad because it's one of the main points, especially like in the 30s with communism coming into the Black community, that really I think had a significant impact on the Black community and on Black thought.
Yeah, and I would have just ate them up because they're all liberals. And so I'm like, yeah, the feminist movement of the 60s, the I don't need a man generation, the one that told women to leave their men, the war on poverty that subsidized single motherhood and made fathers irrelevant. I would have went to all their liberal stuff they love and like, yeah, this did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is it. We don't have time to get to the last one, but I think this has been a good discussion. It's just good to look at, some of the conversations that are happening in our culture. Jubilee and the surrounding videos are huge in the culture. Their videos generally get a couple million at least views. I think this video with B Tatum is already up to 800,000. So it's good. It's good to hear, what people say and what people think. And to also understand, like, how do we listen well?
Yeah. And just of all the Black conservatives, they could have done better than Brandon Tatum. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah. Who would you have said?
Of course, our friends Chad Jackson, Delano Squires would have been awesome.
I think Carol Swain would have just gave him that work.
Jason Riley. Yeah, there's a lot of people who could have sat down and just really mopped the floor with that room.
Glenn Lowry.
Oh, Glenn Lowry, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to pick somebody, say, Kevin, give me one person, it probably would have been Delano, just because Delano does a good job of speaking their language. And at the same time, really countering their arguments from a calm, level-headed disposition.
Yeah.
And letting his arguments. Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, this has been fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you on another episode of Offcode.
Yep.
Bye.